Kenya is a gorgeous country. In my humble opinion, it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world and renowned for its national parks. But Kenya has over 50 national parks, and it's impossible to visit them all in one trip. So in this video, I'll talk about some of Kenya's best and most underrated national parks, the ones that are really beautiful, but not very well known. Some are safari parks, others protect mountains and oceans, some have great cultural significance, and others simply offer a beautiful landscape. I'll tell you what makes each park unique and why you should or shouldn't visit it. I also did a part 1 to this video where I talk more about Kenya's more popular national parks such as the Masai Mara, Lake Nakuru or Amboseli, just to name a few. I'll make sure I put it on the screen and I'll link it in the description just in case you want to watch that video before you watch this one. And as promised in part 1, I'll also let you know my personal favorite Kenyan National Park and the one at the top of my bucket list at the end of this video. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Laura and I've spent the past few years traveling around Europe and Africa. So if you like travel content like travel vlogs or more informational videos like this one, make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell for notifications. So the first park I'm going to talk about is Samburu National Park. Samburu is located north of Nairobi in Samburu County, and it's one of the more well-known national parks on this list. It's usually considered to be one of the best safari destinations in Kenya. I'd say that it's one of the more expensive safaris in the country along with all Pejeta, and it's not very accessible, but I've heard it's great and really worth the money. Here you can see a lot of animals common to Kenya's northern plains, including geranooks, Grevy's zebra, oryx, and reticulated giraffe. All three big cats, lion, cheetah, and African leopard can also be found here, as well as elephants, Cape buffalo, and hippos. You can also see baboons, warthogs, gazelles, impala, waterbug, and a type of antelope called kirkstick, which is one of the smallest antelopes in the world, and it's absolutely adorable. Samburu National Park is also well known for the Samburu tribe. Much like in the Masai Mara, where visits to Masai villages are popular amongst international tourists, visits to Samburu villages are typical in this area. The Samburu are an Nilotic people of north-central Kenya, and they're semi-nomadic pastoralists who herd mainly cattle, but also keep sheep, goats, and camels. The Samburu are often confused with the Maasai tribe, but even though they're culturally and historically related, they're a distinct tribe. It's also worth mentioning that the Samburu don't actually call themselves Samburu. That's just the name that everyone else knows them by. The name they actually use to refer to their tribe is Lokop or Loikop. But before I continue, I wanted to mention that if you're looking to do a safari in Kenya or visit some of its national parks, a great place to find activities and safaris is Get Your Guide. So I personally use Get Your Guide a lot in all of my trips. It's super easy to find the activity that you're looking for, book it, and the activities themselves are great. So for example, I found this safari to Samburu National Park that I would love to go on someday, hopefully next time I'm in Nairobi. And I found this safari to the Masai Mara, Nakuru and Amboseli, which is pretty similar to the one I did last time I was in Kenya, at a very reasonable price. And if you're looking for something more affordable, you can find that on Get Your Guide too, like this 4-day safari to the Masai Mara and Lake Nakuru, this 3-day safari to Tsavo, or this one to Amboseli. I'll leave a link to all of the Get Your Guide activities and safaris in the description, and it doesn't cost you anything extra to book through that link, but it does give me a commission, so I would really appreciate it if you use that link if you do end up booking any safaris or any activities with Get Your Guide. So speaking of remote national parks in northern Kenya, I have to mention the Lake Turkana National Parks. This video would be incomplete without them. But I must warn you, this place is not for the average traveler. Lake Turkana is the world's largest permanent desert lake. Like I said, it's in northern Kenya, and its far northern end crosses into Ethiopia. It's a very isolated and inaccessible place, and it takes 2 full days of driving to get here from Nairobi, so it's a wild and rugged place, good for those who crave adventure. There's also some conflict in this area. So this is a semi-desertic area, and water here is very scarce, which has left people competing for resources. So I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but this scarcity has led to conflict between different local tribes. That said, if you've got nothing to do with this conflict, I see no reason why you can't travel here safely or why someone would want to harm you. But please, if you're thinking about going to Lake Turkana or its surrounding area, make sure you're well informed. So the Lake Turkana National Parks are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and there's 3 national parks: Sibeloy National Park, Central Island National Park, and South Island National Park. The last two are within Lake Turkana itself, and Sibeloy is located on the northeastern side of the lake. So Lake Turkana is quite special for several reasons. Like I said, it's the largest permanent desert lake in the world, but it's also the only lake that receives flow from the Kenyan highlands as well as the Ethiopian highlands, mostly from the Omo River. Some wildlife is present around the lake, such as Grevy's zebra, Besa oryx, and reticulated giraffes, but it's mostly important as a stop for migratory birds and a breeding grounds for Nile crocodile. Lake Turkana is also very famous for its human fossils located at the Kubi-4 deposits in Sibeloy National Park. Now, I don't know much about fossils, so I can't tell you much about them, but what I can tell you is that these fossils have contributed more to the understanding of human evolution than any other fossils in the continent. I mean, there's a reason why they call this place the cradle of mankind. The area surrounding Lake Turkana is also well known for its numerous tribes and cultures that live there. Some of them are the Turkana tribe, the Rendile, El Molo, and Dasenek tribes. My apologies if I mispronounced any of these names. The next park on this list is Tsavo National Park. Tsavo is divided into Tsavo East National Park and Tsavo West National Park. Both parks are divided by a road that crosses this territory. Tsavo East is located in a semi-arid area previously known as the Turu Desert, and it mostly consists of semi-arid grasslands and savanna. It also has the world's longest lava flow, which was formed by lava from the Oldonyo Sabuk mountain. Tsavo West National Park has a number of cliffs, and it's easily the best place for rock climbing in Kenya. When it comes to wildlife, Tsavo is very famous for its Tsavo lions, whose adult males often lack manes entirely. It's also a good place to spot black rhinos, and there's a black rhino sanctuary in Tsavo East. Otherwise, you can find pretty much any type of African wildlife such as buffaloes, zebras, leopards, elephants, giraffes, etc. And many species of antelope as well, including impalas and gazelles of course, but also rarer species like elands, hartebeest, kudus, fringe-eared oryx, and reedbucks. Of course, not every national park in Kenya is centered around safari though, and that's why I want to talk about Mount Kenya National Park. As the name suggests, Mount Kenya National Park protects Mount Kenya, which is not only Kenya's highest mountain, but at 5,199 meters, it's the second highest mountain in all of Africa after Tanzania's Kilimanjaro. While there are some animals in Mount Kenya National Park, most people who come here want to climb up the mountain, and some people also want to go hiking. Mount Kenya is a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of its incredible nature, but it also has a lot of cultural significance. The area around the mountain is the traditional homeland of the Kikuyu, Embu, Meru, and Kamba communities, and the mountain is sacred to them. For example, the mountain is essential in the Kikuyu creation myth, and the mountain is also holy to them because their traditional god Ngai is said to reside at the peak of Mount Kenya. Interestingly, the country Kenya is named after the mountain. So Mount Kenya is called Kirinyaga in the Kikuyu language, and it's not exactly clear how this word ended up becoming Kenya, but one account says that Kirinyaga means mountain of whiteness because of the mountain's snow-capped peak. But then when the British arrived in Kenya, they couldn't really pronounce the word Kirinyaga, so Kirinyaga ended up morphing into Kenya, and it ended up being the name of the country. To the west of Mount Kenya, you can find the Aberdare National Park, which is located in the Aberdare mountain range. It has a wide range of landscapes ranging from mountain peaks to lush green valleys, moorland forests and rainforests that are intersected by rivers, streams and majestic waterfalls. Aberdare's main attraction is wildlife. You can easily see elephants, buffalo, zebras, warthogs, bushbucks and reedbucks, hyenas and colobus monkeys. I have to say though that some people that I've spoken to didn't really like safaris in the Aberdare as much as safaris in other national parks. Mostly because the Aberdare has a lot of trees, which makes animals harder to spot, as opposed to a park like the Masai Mara or Amboseli, which is mostly grasslands and savanna. There's also a number of waterfalls in Aberdare National Park. The most well-known waterfall is the Karuru waterfall, which is 273 meters high, and Aberdare is home to approximately 290 bird species, so it's also a great place for bird watching. So before I tell you what my favorite national park in Kenya is, I'm going to mention the Pejeta Conservancy very briefly. So the Pejeta Conservancy is located right in between the slopes of Mount Kenya and the Aberdare's mountain range in Laikipia County. It's a not-for-profit wildlife conservancy, and it houses the largest black rhinoceros sanctuary in East Africa, as well as the last two remaining northern white rhinos in the world. There's also a chimpanzee sanctuary here, so even though chimpanzees are not native to Kenya, the Conservancy provides a haven for rescued chimps, and it's the only place in Kenya where you can see these animals. Pejeta also has all of the big five: elephants, buffalo, rhinos, lions, and leopards, and it's a popular safari destination. I've personally never been to Pejeta, but I've heard great things about it from people who have traveled here, and they say that it's one of their favorite safari destinations in Kenya, comparable even to the Masai Mara. So, with so many national parks, which one is my favorite? This may be very predictable, but I have to go with the Masai Mara. I know it's very touristic, and I haven't visited all of Kenya's national parks. There's still a lot I've got left to see, so I may change my mind in the future. But I honestly think that the Masai Mara is the closest thing to heaven on earth, and I just loved it. The landscapes there are breathtaking, and that park has the best wildlife that I've seen in all of Africa. As for the national park that I would like to visit the most, I would have to go with one of the marine national parks that I talked about in part 1. See, I've done lots of safaris in Kenya, Botswana, South Africa, and I'd love to do more, but I haven't really explored marine life in the same way. And after a couple of experiences watching marine life in South Africa and snorkeling in the most beautiful coral reefs in Zanzibar and Tanzania, I just realized that I want more of this. So I'm going to say that the Kenyan National Park at the top of my bucket list is the Kisitempunguti Marine National Park and Reserve. If you liked this video and found it useful, remember to subscribe and let me know in the comments section what national park you think I missed. Until then, see you in my next video.